Welcome to Our Weird World. I'm your host, John Henson, and this week is a big episode. It's a bigger story. It's a story that you probably have heard the ending of. You know, it's one of those that had a big ending, and that's kind of what everybody knows. But, oh, God, everything that led up to that moment is just as good, if not better. And so that is why we are looking at the story of Jim Jones and the People's Temple. It's a fun cult story this week, so let's get into it. Jimothy Lorraine Jones was born on May 13th, 1931 near Crete, Indiana. His name, I don't know. His birth name was not Jimothy Lorraine. That would be weird if it was. But no, Jim, born in Crete, Indiana, grew up in the nearby town of Lynn. And because it was during the Depression, a lot of people just out of work, out of money. He grew up in this shack that didn't even have running water. And to make things worse, like, he was a really weird kid, like just a super weird kid. All right. So he had a hard time making friends because he was weird. And so because he wasn't socializing with other kids his age, he spent a lot of his free time reading works by people like Joseph Stalin and Karl Marx, but then also like Mahatma Gandhi. And so it was just a real weird mix. He was also just intensely fascinated with religion and death. And if you know how this story ends, that is fantastic foreshadowing for how this guy's life is going to turn out. Now, there are conflicting reports of just how weird he was as a child. On one hand, later on in life, a childhood acquaintance, when he's talking about Jim Jones and everything that he did, this childhood acquaintance said that he would give the Nazi salute and shouted Heil Hitler after a German POW arrived in town during World War II and patted him on the head. Which, it makes a lot of sense. Like, one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot is that, there were these prisoner camps in the States that housed German and other, enemy soldiers during World War II. And there was one of these apparently in Indiana. And I don't know. Why are you letting the citizens get that close to a Nazi in the first place? And then also, how is that kid not getting beaten to death on the spot where he sees this German soldier walk by? German says, "Oh, hello, little boy. Very good." And then little Jimothy, he's just like, "Heil Hitler." Like, why do you let that happen? Where are his parents in this situation? On the other hand, all right, you have that situation. On the other hand, Jones's father was a member of the KKK, and the two actually ended up arguing a lot with each other over race, which ultimately damaged their relationship. And to kind of give you some kind of, like, Jones, like Jimothy here, he was very progressive for his time, especially in Indiana, where he's just like, man, all the races should be equal. Like, black people aren't bad. And then his dad is like, whatever, dude. Black people are the worst, except for the Jews. And then Jimothy was like, but Dad, Jesus was a Jew. And then, they went into it. So there's that sort of kind of redeeming quality about it. But then on like a third hand, Jones also stabbed several cats to death for the sole reason of just wanting to perform funeral services in the backyard. And so that's what he would do. He would stab a cat to death, which is sad, right? And then he would act as the preacher for this cat's funeral. And just, he's sitting out in his backyard. "We are gathered here today to mourn the loss of Sprinkles. He was a good cat. He did not scratch me as I stabbed him, and he died. So ashes to ashes, dust to dust, we send sprinkles to the earth's crust. I don't know, whatever. But that's weird. That is weird behavior. And I don't care how much as a parent, all right? I'm not a parent. I don't know. But I got to imagine, even if you disagree with your kid and just hate your kid's dumb little opinions, you have to still step in if they're doing something like holding cat funerals in the backyard. That's unacceptably weird behavior, and you got to put a stop to it. You got to put your foot down, all right? A lot of this could have been prevented if Jimothy's parents here had just done something. Just even the smallest intervention, I think, would have gone a long way, all right? However, Jones grew up. He went on to marry Marceline Baldwin and then moved to Indianapolis in 1951 when he was 20 years old. That year, he began attending meetings of the Communist Party USA and actually took particular disdain towards the McCarthy hearings, which you want to get into like government conspiracies and all that McCarthyism and the Red Scare and all of that. And of course he would be against that if he's joining the Communist Party. And he especially began to hate the government and the FBI after his mom started getting harassed by the FBI after they saw her attend one of the Communist Party gatherings. And so after growing increasingly frustrated with the persecutions of communists in the United States, Jones started to look for ways to peacefully and positively demonstrate his own Marxism. And then he realized, why not combine the two worlds? Because if we're being honest, a lot of this at the time was being presented as like communism is the devil, patriotism is Jesus, and God, if that's not still true, right? And so Jones is like, nah, dog, I'm going to put these two together. Because, and if we're being honest, Jesus probably a little bit more on the communist side than the capitalist side. If you just look at the Bible, I'm not saying some of you, I feel some of you are very tense right now. Some buttholes really puckered up on that one. I'm not saying Jesus was a communist. I'm not saying Jesus and Stalin would have been best friends. What I am saying is that Jesus was more like, hey, let's let everybody just contribute to the best of their ability, and not, hey, it's a rat race to the top to see who can rule them all, right? That's all I'm saying. All right. Now, the following year, in 1952, Jones became a student pastor at Somerset Southside Methodist Church in Indianapolis, but quickly left because they actually forbade him. Forbade? They said, don't do this. They said that he could not bring black people to the services because, Indiana. Like, even though Indiana, I think, is considered like part of the Midwest, Indiana sucks as a state. Like, here's the thing. I talk a lot of crap about like South Carolina, and rightfully so. South Carolina sucks. Indiana, not much better. All right. Not much better at all. There's nothing. First of all, just nothing. It's flat. There's fields, and that's about it. All right. The people there mostly suck. All right. A lot of just irrational conservatism, just that blind religious hate, and just to be that way. Right. And if you're from Indiana and you're listening to this right now, sorry, it's true. Right. I'm not saying everyone in Indiana is like that. There's probably some good people, but like the majority, like enough of a majority to just generalize the whole state. And I don't generalize often. All right. I'm doing it here. Indiana sucks. Right. So he goes out, he's trying to find a new place to be his little Christian communist self. And when he witnessed a faith healing service at a Seventh Day Baptist church, which that's got to be like number one contender for a combination of the most unfun people ever. Seventh Day Adventist plus Baptist. Like, I grew up Baptist, and there's a lot of Baptist people that just hate everything. And then you combine that with Seventh Day Adventist people who don't celebrate holidays. Where's your joy in life? Right? Like, I don't know. Maybe you find, and look, maybe there's something admirable about that. Maybe you can go to the grocery store and you can find pure joy in buying a pint of ice cream. And maybe you're getting weird with it and you're buying like mango ice cream, getting real kinky. All right. I don't know how you live like that, where that's your level of excitement. But whatever, man, you do you. It takes a village. All right. And who am I to judge? Except I'm doing it right now. Anyway, that's beside the point. So he sees this faith healing service at this Seventh Day Baptist church, and he realized that was his ticket. He could make a fortune doing the same thing, because I don't know if you've ever seen a faith healing service. It's a little much. All right. And I don't know who they're trying to fool. I don't know who, because it's like always these like just bland looking people walking up. It's the Benny Hinn stuff. Not Benny Hinn. Is it Benny Hinn? Yeah. I said this before. I get Benny Hinn and Benny Hill confused. Benny Hill is the that song. And then Benny Hinn is the faith healer where he like touches your forehead and then you like seizure out all over the floor. And it's not real. Like, I don't know if he just like pays people beforehand to do it, or maybe he's just charismatic enough that the dumbest people can get caught up in it. And I realize I have gone on so many tangents right now. And that's okay, because this is just a weird episode already. Why not make it worse? So he realizes, like, all right, I can be a faith healer because I'm charismatic enough and people will believe anything I say. And he wasn't wrong. So in 1956, he organized a massive religious convention and invited William M. Branham, who was one of the more famous healing evangelists at the time. And this convention was a huge success. They like popped a lot of people, thumped a lot of people in the nipple or something or whatever they do. And people were like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. And they raised a ton of money, which Jones then used to start his own church, the People's Temple Christian Church Full Gospel. Long name. And I love how he over time just changed it to the People's Temple, because the rest of those words aren't really necessary, right? So Jones, he starts this church and he immediately begins preaching about how unfair it was that black people couldn't join white churches. And he's got a point. Totally agree with him on that. Like, but at the same time, like, have you been to a black church service? I don't know why a black person would want to join a white service. Two totally different atmospheres. Maybe, look, I'm not saying segregation was a bad thing in all respects. All right. Sometimes I'm just saying the black people had something going. And so why would you want to integrate that? Let them keep doing their thing. I'm not saying that things should still be segregated, but in a way they still are, because you still have black churches. And like, those things are pretty cool. Just a lot of dancing, a lot of hand waving, fun outfits. Everybody's having a party. Everybody's sweating. Everybody's talking like this. And it's getting toned in the Holy Ghost. And everybody's getting done. And then the food's great. And then what happens at a white service? And then you get told you're a piece of crap for 45 minutes. It's a bad time, right? So Jim Jones, broader picture speaking, he's fighting for integration. Great for him, all right? Maybe this just wasn't the area that he should have been fighting for. That's all I'm saying. He also, so he's that's his platform. He also begins raising money for his new church by importing monkeys and then going door to door to sell them as pets. And I'm not going to do it. But there's a real dark turn that this episode could take. It's not going there. I just want you to know that I was thinking it, and you're probably thinking it too. And I'm not going to do it because this is a family program, and I don't know. I don't need to go there. All right. I'm completely sober right now, by the way. I'm just in a fun mood. I'm in a real fun kind of jazzy mood right now. So I'm 3 sheets to the wind, or whatever that saying is. He's working for integration. He's a door-to-door monkey salesman, and he's also just working tirelessly in Indianapolis to just integrate all of the churches and the restaurants and the police departments and other businesses around the city. He even went so far as to set up sting operations to catch restaurants that were refusing to serve black customers. And he received a lot of criticism for this, like a ton of criticism for this, because of his actions and his views, because Indiana was and still is a generally awful place. Right? Like, you think Alabama, Mississippi, stereotypically racist places. Get it. Indiana, also very racist and awful. So awful, in fact, that people started painting swastikas on the temple. A stick of dynamite was thrown in the temple's coal pile. A dead cat was thrown at Jones's house, which was probably fine for him. He just gave it a funeral and went about his way. But, like, still, despite all of that, Jones was a central figure in Indianapolis's desegregation when it finally happened. So he's doing a lot of good work. And even more, when he wasn't just helping black people, Jones and his wife were adopting children of various ethnicities long before Angelina Jolie made it cool, to be part of what he called his rainbow family, which that sounds a little racist, but, like, I don't know. What is it? It is. We can't, like, if we can't refer to Asian people as, like, red or yellow, which that's not me. Again, I felt your butthole pucker a little bit. That's not me. That's a thing that used to happen. All right. And Jim Jones is there, and he's like, here, I've got a white baby and a black baby and a red baby and a yellow baby. I got me a whole rainbow family. Like, it's problematic. All right. It is problematic. And so, he still did it. He had, and here's how it broke down. He had a Native American baby, 3 Korean Americans, a black child, and a white child. They also had their own biological child named Stephen Gandhi Jones. So, fortunately, unfortunate for that kid to be named Stephen Gandhi. Ugh. Anyway, in 1962, my mind is all over the place right now. I keep going down all of these dead end roads, and then I have to, like, quickly get back into the main story, and I'm having a hard time doing it. Anyway, in 1962, after becoming increasingly paranoid about a nuclear apocalypse, which, reasonable, Jones traveled to Belo Horizonte, Brazil, to scout out a new location for the temple. He was going to move out of Indiana and into the wilderness where maybe the Russians wouldn't nuke it. He and his family actually ended up staying there for over a year, working with the poor in Belo Horizonte and Rio de Janeiro. But Jones began to feel guilty for abandoning the civil rights movement back in Indiana. And when he found out that the temple was on the brink of financial collapse because the people that he had left it in charge with, they were running it into the ground. He went back to the States. And when he got back, he started preaching to his congregation that a nuclear war was going to start on July 15th, 1967, which would lead to a new socialist Eden on Earth. Okay. And to make sure that they were all safe, the temple needed to move to the town of Redwood Valley in Northern California. So he spends this year in Brazil, and then he comes back and he's like full cult leader now. Although he was initially preaching straight from the Bible, Jones slowly began weaving his socialist beliefs into his sermons until over time they had just fully morphed into monologues about the benefits of communism. So like, he's not even citing scripture anymore or anything like that. He's abandoned kind of the religious side of things for the most part. And by the 1970s, like, he was openly denouncing Christianity, saying that it oppressed women and non-whites, which, he's not wrong. At least the version of Christianity that was being preached in the 1970s, very much so like that. He told people then, like, he's insane now. He starts telling people that he is the reincarnation of Gandhi, Jesus, Buddha, and Vladimir Lenin, which, if there's one that like doesn't really fit with the others, all right. And then he also just came out and admitted that he was an atheist, but continued preaching and promoting Marxism using a lot of like religious imagery. So like, he's not citing the Bible, but he's still basically saying like, well, Jesus did all of this sorts of stuff and whatnot. So that's why it's good. Even though he just doesn't believe in the religious aspects of those things at all. Obviously though, like, not everything was going perfectly. When Jones wasn't preaching, he was doing everything he could to prevent people from leaving the temple because, like, and look, you join this church, he's preaching all of these good things, and then all of a sudden he's like, nah, I'm not. There's no God. God's not real. And a nuclear war is going to happen on this day, which it didn't happen. It never did. No one called him out on it. And then he moves the group to California, and people had enough, and they rightfully decide to leave. So what he starts exposing all of this dirt, and he starts blackmailing all of these former members. And for example, in 1971, Jones allegedly fathered a child with member Grace Stowen after Grace's husband, Timothy, asked Jones to have sex with Grace to prevent her from leaving. So basically, this guy comes to Jim Jones. He's like, hey, my wife is trying to leave. Will you have sex with her and have a kid with her so she can't leave? Which, I don't know if that's how it went down, but that's what he claims happened. Along with his wife, though, Jones did have many mistresses along the way and regularly engaged in sex with both his male and female followers. He was actually arrested on December 13th, 1973, after an undercover officer caught him jacking it in a Los Angeles movie theater restroom. And then here's what's fun about this. This is where he's like totally unhinged. He gets arrested. This story gets out. And then Jones just shows up to his congregation and he claims that he is, quote, the only true heterosexual, even though he was actively having sex with his male followers. And he was doing it every time he did it. He said that he was doing it for their own good as a way to symbolically connect them with him. So like his wiener held all of his spiritual power. And so he had to install it in the butts of his male followers for them to make that connection. Because words don't work. And so it's just, I don't know, man. Like, how do you get to that point as a person? Like, I'm talking about like as a member of this cult. Cause like for me, I would like to think that maybe I get involved, right? Maybe I join this group because they have good refreshments or whatever. And the message is fine, sure, whatever, do these things, you'll go to heaven. And then the guy's like, hey, so all the things that I've been telling you before, they're true, but it's not like 100% true. What's really true is that I hold all of the power and knowledge and the key to your eternal life in my wiener. And if you want that, if you want to be eternally connected to me and God and be super powerful forever, you got to let me stick my wiener in your butt. And at that point, I would like to think that I would be like, not for me. Like, I'll just die. That's fine. Or I'll take my chances. Because surely, God, in his infinite wisdom, wouldn't send a Messiah of sorts to then, to anally probe everyone to get them to heaven. There's got to be a better way, right? Because at that point, because you got to know, God would think in his infinite wisdom, well, not everybody's going to be into that. And so there's got to be another, I don't know, maybe my logic is too narrow-minded, right? Maybe maybe you, judgmental listener, maybe you should open your mind and your butthole, all right? And let the power of Jesus come right in there. And that means two things, if you think about it. Anyway, that's probably not how it goes. But that's what Jim Jones was thinking. And so he's doing all that. And then they finally get settled in California, and membership actually explodes because, of course, people in Northern California are going to be all about this, right? You're telling me that communism is connected to Jesus and also my butthole? Sign me up. This is what I've been looking for my entire life, right? They soon started maximizing their reach, and Jones started looking for other cities to kind of plant churches and really kind of grow this up. Like he has Donald Trump this thing into near bankruptcy, and then he's blown it back up again into this raging success. He decides to resettle in San Francisco, obviously. And by 1975, the temple was heavily influencing the city's politics, and even met with national figures like Walter Mondale and Rosalind Carter, who both praised the work that the temple was doing. Meanwhile, Jones broke ground on a new compound in Guyana in South America, called the People's Temple Agricultural Project, aka Jonestown. Kitty's got the zoomies. He just made a poop, and now he's gonna run some stairs. He's setting up. There he goes. Oh man, he's gone down, and he'll come back up in a minute. Anyway, I know you don't care. There he goes. Oh man, look at him go. The black blur, just racing through the house. Anyway. So yeah, he sets up Jonestown, and he's claiming that this is going to be this socialist paradise. All right. He thinks that everyone will put in equal work and not get tired of each other, and everything will be great. And it's going to be this utopia that will prove that communism is the best way to live your life. And although he claimed like it was established as this model communist community, any member of the People's Temple who chose to live on this property was then not allowed to leave under any circumstance whatsoever. So once you committed, you're in for life. And so during his visits to the compound, he's going back and forth between Guyana and California. While he's at the compound, he begins sharing his belief that everyone in the People's Temple would soon enter what he called translation, in which they would all die together and then reappear magically on another planet to live happily ever after. And again, I would like to think that I had the logical thought to maybe get out at that point. Like, this church is great, man. It's pizza for lunch after every service. It's great. I love it here. What's that? Oh, we gotta die to go live on another planet. All right, I'm out. I like pizza, but not that much. Gotta go. Some people, smartly, were not on board with that. Grace Stowen, remember her from earlier, who allegedly she did have a kid with Jones, named John. In 1971, she eventually leaves the temple. She divorces her husband, who arranged that entire relationship in the first place. And Jones, when she left, Jones ordered Grace's ex-husband to take the baby, John, to Jonestown in order to avoid a custody dispute, which seems like the exact sort of thing that would ignite a custody dispute. But who am I? Like, what do I know about the legal system? Timothy ended up defecting in 1977, but he leaves the kid in Jonestown, which I don't know. I don't know that I blame him for that. It's not his kid. It's the cult leader's kid. And then it's his dumb ex-wife's kid, even though he's the whole reason this kid exists in the first place. No one looks good in this story, right? Jim Jones is a creep for impregnating this woman. Timothy Stowen is a dickhead for making his wife have a kid with a cult leader. Grace, kind of the hero in this because she left first, but then didn't get her kid. Back in San Francisco, Jones has increased public visibility. A lot of people know him, which, as you know, then brings an unwanted amount of media scrutiny. Although he had several friends at the San Francisco Chronicle who often wrote glowing stories about the temple's work, one reporter named Marshall Kilduff actually threatened to expose Jones and publish a story in New West magazine, exposing him of all of the mistresses and gay stuff and all the other stuff that he was doing. And so, not wanting to risk losing his entire profitable model, he decided in 1977, everyone, we're leaving California, Jonestown's ready, we're leaving the country. So a few months later, Timothy Stowen and other defectors formed the Concerned Relatives Group and filed several grievances to Congress against Jones and the People's Temple. California Congressman Leo Ryan wrote a letter to Guyana's Prime Minister Forbes Burnham to investigate the issue, while Stowen and his group filed a custody dispute over baby John. Additionally, using testimony from another defector named Deborah Layton, who outlined all of the horrible living conditions in Jonestown, which, of course they were going to be bad, the Concerned Relatives Group distributed a comprehensive packet of documents to Congress and members of the press describing how horrible the People's Temple truly was. In response, Jim Jones hired Mark Lane and Donald Freed, the men who were actually responsible for spreading the JFK assassination conspiracy, to then start another conspiracy about how the CIA was permeating their own conspiracy to smear the temple's reputation. So basically, what happened is Jim Jones hired conspiracy theorists to create another conspiracy about the CIA. And so, the same guys who now make everyone believe that JFK was assassinated by the CIA now has people trying to get people to believe that the CIA is actively working to bring down the People's Temple. in like some weird smear campaign. In November of 1978, Leo Ryan flew down to Jonestown to investigate all of these claims that he had received about the living conditions. Jones actually hosted a reception for Congressman Ryan and his group, during which several people came up to him and was like, please help me get out of here. I'm begging you. It sucks here. Don't let him trick you. It's awful. Wink, wink. The next day, on November 18th, after one temple member tried to attack Ryan, the group left Jonestown with 15 other members who asked for help getting out. So he's actually bringing members with him, except you can't do that. And as the group and the defectors boarded two planes at a nearby airstrip, Jones's Red Brigade, which was like his own little army, showed up on a tractor and started shooting at the airplanes. Congressman Ryan, NBC reporter Don Harris, a cameraman, a photographer, and one of the defecting Jonestown members were all killed in the shootout. Back in Jonestown, Jimothy, he's like, all right, this is it. We've kind of crossed the line. Can't go back now. And he gathers everyone together and tells them that he had ordered Congressman Ryan's murder and that the Soviet Union was not going to let them go there because he had been planning another move. Like he knew Jonestown sucked. And so he was planning on taking everyone to the Soviet Union. And when the Soviet Union doesn't want you, even though you're like a proclaimed communist, you should take that as a sign that you're a terrible person and a terrible group. So he said, we don't have any options. He also began to claim that the American government was conspiring against them and would soon send the military down to, quote, shoot some of our innocent babies and torture our children. And then he argued that everyone there needed to commit, quote, revolutionary suicide. I don't know what that means. But at that point, like, people are like, oh no, I am in a cult. I'm such an idiot. Now we're all going to die. And so people began crying. And Jones is like trying to console them in this weird sort of way where he was like saying like, nah, man, nah, guys, come on. Like death is just his friend. And we're going to be stepping over into another plane. And then he starts preparing this giant tub of grape Flavor Aid. Not Kool-Aid. I like Kool-Aid because it stuck around, but it was actually Flavor Aid. Great Flavor Aid and cyanide. And he's telling the crowd, quote, we didn't commit suicide. We committed an act of revolutionary suicide, protesting the conditions of an inhumane world. Which, what's the difference between suicide and revolutionary suicide? Like, you're still killing yourself. It's the same thing. A few minutes later, 909 people, 304 of which were children, were dead. And that is the end of Jimothy's story. All right. Thank you for sticking with it. I know I was all over the place today. But this was one of those stories that just, it's so insane that there's just so many different tangents to go off of. And I felt like going down all of them today. So thank you for sticking with me on that one. So let's go ahead and just recap and see all of the things that we learned today.
What did we learn?
Number one, parents, if your kid enjoys conducting cat funerals in the backyard, make them play sports or something. Like, you got to intervene at that point. You can't let your kid be that weird. All right. Also, if they start reading like a bunch of philosophical books before they've hit puberty, throw them in front of a video game. Do something. You just can't do that. You have to be a parent at that point, right? Number two, Jim Jones was the only true heterosexual. He was homosexual. But he claimed to be the one true heterosexual, and that he was only banging dudes to make a connection with them, a loving gay connection with them, right? And then number three, yeah, man, over 900 people died at Jonestown. One of the most famous cult stories of all time, and just a wild ride. Next week on Our Weird World, we are going back to a place that we have not been since episode number 7 of this show, and that is the Wild West. Going to look at some stories from the lawless early frontier Western era of America, with the stories of Liver-Eating Johnston, Boone Helm, the Bloody Benders, and the Red Ghost. So put on your cowboy hats or something. I don't know. Whatever, dude. That's it. Thanks for listening. Keep telling all your friends and keep it weird. She got a body like an hourglass, but I can give it to you all the time. She got a booty like a Cadillac, but I can send you into overdrive. You've been waiting for that. Step on up, swing your bat. See, anybody could be bad to you. You need a good girl to blow your mind. Yeah. She might have let you hold her hand in school, but I'ma show you how to graduate. No, I don't need to hear you talk the talk. Just come and show me what your mama gave. Oh, all right. I heard you've got a very big mouth, but don't say a thing. See, anybody could be good to you. You need a bad girl to blow your mind. It's Mix Moscato. It's Frizz in a bottle. It's Nikki full throttle. It's Oh-Oh. Swimming in the grotto. We winning in the lotto. We dipping in the powder blue 4-door. Kitten so good, it's dripping on wood. Get a ride in the engine that could go. Batman robbing it. Bang, bang, cocking it. Queen Nikki dominant, prominent. It's me, Jesse, and Ari. If they test me, they sorry. Ride this like a Harley, then pull off in his Ferrari. If we hanging, we banging, phone ranging, he slanging. It ain't karaoke night, but get the mic, 'cause I'm singing. Bang, bang, into the room. I know you want it. Bang, bang, all over you. Bang, 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 bang. I'll let you have it. Just wait a minute. Let me take you there. And wait a minute till you... yeah. Uh-huh.